This is Bye-Bye Miss American Pie. Sometime in my lifetime, which is 70 years long or longer, America was warned by other countries to be careful because America was only a 200-year-old country. And the only reason they were allowed to get away with what they did was they had the atomic bomb and were protected by oceans east and west. But the other countries were the mess in Europe and the mess in the Middle East and the mess between the Middle East and the rest of Asia, Russia, China. That stuff's been going on. They've been fighting with each other for minimum 5,000 years, probably 10,000 years. And they have lots of memories of what was done to them and grudges and hatreds that we in the West don't know much about. But there's been a change of empires every, say, 150 years. Somebody conquers a land, and then he gets old and sets his son up as his successor. The son's an idiot. He loses the empire. Someone else comes in. These are wars where people get butchered. Gold and jewels get stolen. Women are raped. And Africa, we know not that too much about, but it seems to be have devolved into tribal warfare involving slaughter of the other tribe because they don't like the way they braid their hair. Now, America is a curious item. Some knowledgeable people say that the New World was left fallow by those above us. And that it was an experiment after all this warfare. Let's let these people free and see what happens. And what happened was the United States of America and all the science and the development of things, that's over with. Experiment is over with. The people who financed it want their money back. It was financed by Europe. And now that they have AI and surveillance, they don't need anything else from us. So some things that are occurring. America has done terrible things all around the world. The deep state tries to keep that from us. The world that has had terrible things done to it is very well aware of that and has no love for CIA, I guess. Not the people of America are just like people everywhere else. They're worried about their kids. But the people in other countries only see the armies and the CIA and change of regime, installation of communist leaders, theft of oil, gas, money, gold, etc. So now it's time for global government and to get rid of the U.S. And what you're seeing at the southern border is called Muslim-style warfare, which is you drive the population, usually before the army, into the country you want to conquer, and the people are terrified and poor, and this has happened in Europe over the last few years. All those people have escaped, millions of people escaping from Syria and other such places. This is a plan to destabilize a democratic country because they can't handle the influx of people and the new philosophy. Southern border, hundreds of thousands of people coming, which is upsetting and destabilizing America. Do we help these people or do we throw them back into the sea? And drugs are coming in from China. They've killed 110,000 military-age U.S. men with fentanyl. And why China doesn't mind doing that is the British Empire fought 2 wars over forcing the Chinese to take opium. And the Chinese have no love for the British Empire and, by association, white people. The British even went so far as to take toys and dolls and shoot them out of cannons into China so children would find them and hopefully eat the candies and get addicted to heroin. Some of the children died. You can imagine if you were a mother that you're watching the British offshore shooting drug-laden dolls onto your farm and your children winds up dying from a heroin overdose. This is historic, last couple hundred years. So we get, the only example we have here is the Chinese want vengeance for that. The Spanish who were here in southern United States lost a war over that, the Spanish-American War, so they're not thrilled with America taking away their colony, and the French were in the south, and they lost their colonies to some kind of new American empire. So we have treason everywhere. George Soros is buying up anybody he can, like a judge, prosecutor, mayor, city councilman, policeman, to get rid of democracy and put in socialism, which is a system where loser dweebs can become kings. I just want to mention the cartels are apparently in charge of northern Mexico, and they are a military force, which means a military force becomes a government like Castro, taking out the pro-Western puppet dictator. In Cuba, I'm promising socialism and freedom and a chicken in every pot. And Cuba's still, I have friends that go to Cuba. These Cuban people have nothing. If you own a bicycle, it's like you have a Rolls Royce. So I'm going to mention, I've been doing this since 2010, scanning. Somewhere in a country not too far below the U.S. border, there's an area where the cartels or the drug people are using young teenage girls as lookouts. And they don't want to be doing this, but they threaten their family. And the reason they use underage girls is it can't be prosecuted. And if you screw up, or if you out and out refuse, the girl is gang raped, has her throat cut, and tortured. four throats cut. And the body's thrown on the side of the road where everyone can see it as a warning to other people. That kind of violence is coming to America. That's how the cartels operate. That's how the barbarian world has operated for years. Do what we say or we'll kill your family. And everything in the West is built on what went before. The Declaration of Independence and Bill of Rights is based on very intelligent men knowing the history of Europe and all the bullshit that happened there. And they made up the Constitution and Bill of Rights to include things like you can bear arms because you need to have a weapon to fight it back against government suppression or invasion or imperialism. You need to have free speech so you can expose the crimes. And all these things are based on what psychopaths in Europe were using to get their way over the common people. So this is a stupendous achievement. They spent 2 years working that out so that people would have a legal right to be free in the new world, in quotation marks. It's not an accident. At the time this stuff was being written, the main opponent of them was a man named St. Jude in France, and he was such a sicko, he was wearing a suit made out of human skin. The old world. So we in the West are not used to that level of violence. And it wouldn't take us long to turn around and think we're a bunch of cream puffs, but only because we've been protected all our lives by being able to call the police or welfare or an ambulance. And the reason for the gun grab is they know that the turnaround would probably take no longer than 10 days for people to realize they're under attack by people who are trying to destroy and take over their country. That's called war, and in war it's okay to kill the people who are coming in to invade. And at that time, the biggest crime, and has always been the biggest crime, right back to the 300 Spartans being betrayed by some guy showing the Persians the goat trail that led around to the back of them, is treason. And even in the New World with all these laws, you don't need a jury trial to execute someone for treason. You can have a military trial tribunal and then summary execution. And for those paid up informants, the first people that will be rounded up and shot are those who helped. Because the greatest fear of a totalitarian regime is revolution, because that's how they got into power. For example, Hitler having the brown shirts all killed because they helped him get into power, but they also could have gotten him out of power, so he had them all killed. So, the wolf is smashing through the window and leaping for your children. Literally. And if you think it's going to stop, it's not. COVID is ramping down, supposedly. You think it's just going to go away? There is a chance of a real, honest-to-goodness bio weapon. Everyone has them. And there's this concept called the Great Culling of mankind, which is about getting rid of 90% of the useless eaters, which is you and me, to set up a new aristocracy, which probably includes some of the old aristocracy. I've had troubles in my area, and it was from the black nobility, which is the descendants of royal families who are still considering themselves royal, and they're very bitter, and they have money, and they have people who work with them. So the situation is quite dire. We're just going through the last of the warm weather this summer. I just went yesterday to record a sunset, and all the farms are closed till next year, and there's going to be winter, and then next fall there will be high fertilizer prices, probably very few seeds. If there's a war, there'll be cloudy skies and very little sun, so they're probably only 50% of the food that would have been produced will not be produced. 100 food processing plants have mysteriously been burned down. All the big meat packing plants are shut down, and the one that's remaining open is owned by China, and they're processing pork and sending it to China. Which is what happened during the, for example, the Irish potato famine. There was food leaving the country. The Irish couldn't afford to buy it, so it was shipped out. They even had to have guards, armed guards, with the wagons from the farms to the docks to keep the starving Irish from stealing the food. Know your history, and possibly even the potato blight was a bioweapon, where they found the peasantry in Ireland who were paying rent to English landlords who got the land after a war where treason was what enabled the British to win the war. Were living on the potatoes, the families, and the animals as well. So it could be that someone thought, if we can kill the potatoes, so we can get rid of all these people on the land and enrich our ownership. Interestingly, there was no potato blight before that for 2,000 years, and there was no potato blight after that. And there are viruses in sheep and pigs that are not communicable until humans, unless you can get them inside the bloodstream. So for 2,000 years, maybe longer, mankind has been dipping their arrow tips into pig shit and sheep shit and shooting them at people. And if you don't get killed by the arrow, you get sick, which takes you out of the equation. So I learned a piece of information from a man called Dave Hodges, who has a show on YouTube and private called the Common Sense Show. And he's come up with a statistic that if you write a letter or a phone call to a representative, they count that as 13,000 people. Because it turns out if one person gets so upset that they actually write a letter or make a phone call, there are 13,000 other people of the same opinion. They don't do anything. So it's possible to make a big noise by making a few phone calls or writing some letters. This is what you can do. The small person, oh, what can I do? I can't fight Holy Russia and the United States and the CIA and all of the communist dictators in South America. Yes, you can. You can write to your representative and tell him if he doesn't do the right thing, he's not going to get elected. And they will put that down as 13,000 people told me that if I don't do the right thing, I won't get elected. And for the U.S. People, a large chunk of your representatives are compromised by being bribed, being threatened, or both. And to get elected, you need to take donations from rich people, and rich people do that so they can ask you for favors. So you need to get all of these people out of office, have new people put in, and have them change 2 laws, which is no more insider trading, and you're not allowed to take large campaign donations from private enterprise, or at least you have to disclose every last penny of what it was and who did it. That's what's wrong with America is for 200 years people have been making laws to prevent criminality and damage to people or the earth, and then someone else subverts that. So all that good work is thrown down the tubes by someone who was bribed, threatened, or purchased with donations to agree to the wrong bill. For example, I was aware of someone came up with a product for the big chimneys that spew smoke and cars. It was kind of a ceramic product that would let the gases through but would take all the particulates out. And all those big chimneys spewing garbage should have one. A law should have been made that if you're doing that, you have to buy one of these things. They were $20,000. And that was made to go away by business people said, well, I have 3 stacks. I don't want to spend $60,000 to save the world. So that was not made mandatory. And the one for cars just slipped over your muffler pipe, and once in a while you would just take it off and just dump it into a garbage can, all the particulates coming out of automobiles. And the genius guy who came up with this, no money for him.